You clicked on this because you want a straight answer, not marketing talk. 7 cars, 7 brands that basically built the industry as we know it. And for each one, the real question, does it still make sense to buy it today? Or is the reputation carrying more weight than the actual car does? No filler. Let's start with the first one, Toyota Corolla. If you asked 100 mechanics which car they'd trust with their own money, an uncomfortable number of them would say this one. And that alone tells you something. The Corolla built its entire identity on being boring in the best possible sense. It doesn't try to impress you. It just starts every single time, for years, sometimes decades, with almost no drama. That reliability wasn't an accident. Toyota's production system was obsessively focused on catching defects early, and the Corolla became the poster child for that philosophy. But here's the conflict nobody talks about in the reviews. Newer Corollas, especially post-2020, added more electronics, more driver assist sensors, more software running quietly under the hood. And software fails differently than a worn-out belt. It doesn't always give you warning. Owners have reported infotainment glitches, occasional sensor misreads, small annoyances that the old carbureted Corollas from the 90s simply never had, because they had nothing to malfunction in the first place. So is it still worth buying? Mostly yes, especially used models from the mid-2010s, which hit a sweet spot between simplicity and modern safety. Just don't assume Corolla automatically means bulletproof anymore. The name earned its reputation decades ago, and it's still mostly living up to it, but the margin is thinner than people think. Now the second one is a completely different animal, emotionally and mechanically. Ford Mustang. This is a car people don't just drive, they attach memories to it. First jobs, road trips, breakups, all of it. And that emotional pull is exactly why so many buyers get burned. The Mustang's image was built on raw power and a rear-wheel drive layout that, frankly, punishes inexperienced drivers. Insurance data consistently shows Mustangs, particularly V8 trims, involved in single-vehicle accidents at rates that outpace comparable coupes. That's not an opinion, that's claims data. The car isn't dangerous by design, it's just unforgiving of overconfidence, and that's a very different thing. There's also a maintenance reality that gets glossed over in the excitement of the test drive. High-performance trims eat through tires and brakes noticeably faster than a standard sedan, and repair costs for the more aggressive variants climb quickly once the warranty period ends. Still, if you're buying it for what it actually is, a genuinely thrilling, well-engineered performance car, and not pretending it's a commuter vehicle, the current generation is arguably the most refined Mustang Ford has ever built. The verdict depends entirely on matching the car to the driver, and that's a detail almost nobody mentions before the purchase, only after. But the next brand on this list built its entire reputation on the opposite idea, practicality over passion, and that changes everything about how you should evaluate it. Volkswagen Golf. This is the car that basically invented the modern hatchback formula, and for decades it was the benchmark every competitor got measured against. Engineers loved it. Reviewers loved it. It drove tighter than almost anything in its class, and it made cheaper cars feel expensive just by comparison. That reputation is real, and it's earned. But there's a conflict here that used car buyers keep running into, and it's not really about the driving experience at all. It's about what happens after year 6. Volkswagen's electrical systems, particularly in models from the mid-2000s through the early 2010s, developed a reputation for small faults that pile up quietly. Window regulators failing, ignition coils wearing out earlier than expected, minor sensor errors that trigger dashboard warnings for no obvious reason. None of it is catastrophic on its own. Together, it adds up to a car that costs more to maintain than its badge suggests it should. And repair costs for European parts and labor tend to run higher than for a comparable Japanese or Korean model. So is the Golf still worth buying? If you're getting a well-documented, later-generation model with a full service history, absolutely, the driving feel alone justifies it. If you're buying blind off a listing photo, you're taking on more risk than the price tag implies. Now the third car changes the entire tone of this list, because it's not really about reliability anymore. It's about status, and status has its own hidden costs. BMW 3 Series. For most of the last 30 years, this has been the car people bought specifically because it signaled something: success, taste, a certain kind of ambition. And mechanically, it earned some of that. The chassis balance on a well-maintained 3 Series is genuinely excellent, and that's not marketing. That's something engineers across competing brands have acknowledged openly. But the ownership story tells a very different picture once the factory warranty expires. Depreciation on the 3 Series is steep, faster than most rivals in its segment, which sounds like good news for used buyers until you realize why it depreciates so fast. Maintenance costs, specifically out-of-warranty repair bills that catch a lot of first-time luxury buyers completely off guard. A cracked cooling system component or a failing turbocharger seal isn't unusual territory for these engines past 80,000 miles, and BMW parts aren't priced like Toyota parts. The car that seemed like a smart status upgrade suddenly becomes a monthly gamble. And yet, even the 3 Series is a modest gamble compared to what's next on this list, because now we're stepping into a completely different price bracket, and the mistakes get proportionally bigger. Mercedes-Benz S-Class. This is the car other luxury sedans get compared to, the reference point, the one automakers quietly study when they're designing something that's supposed to feel like the pinnacle of engineering. And it genuinely is impressive. Cabin insulation, ride comfort, the way it handles small road imperfections like they don't exist. But here's where the story gets uncomfortable for buyers who assume flagship means flawless. The S-Class carries more onboard technology than almost any other car on the road. Air suspension systems, adaptive electronics, driver assist packages layered on top of each other. Complexity like that comes with a price beyond the sticker. When something fails, an air suspension strut, a sensor module tied into the semi-autonomous systems, diagnosing and repairing it isn't a weekend job for a local mechanic. It often requires dealership-level equipment and dealership-level pricing. Owners who bought a used S-Class expecting bargain luxury have discovered, sometimes within the first year, that a single suspension repair can cost more than what they paid for an entire economy car. Still, if you're buying new or certified pre-owned with a warranty covering those exact systems, the S-Class delivers an experience almost nothing else on this list can match. The verdict flips entirely depending on whether you're protected against the exact failures that define ownership costs. But the next car on this list isn't about comfort or status at all. It's about something rarer, and it might be the most emotionally loaded purchase on this entire list. Porsche 911. There's a reason this car has survived, largely unchanged in spirit, for more than half a century, while dozens of competitors came and went. It's not nostalgia. It's that Porsche kept refining a formula that actually works, rear-engine balance that shouldn't make sense on paper, but somehow does, steering feedback that enthusiasts describe as close to unmatched in the segment. Independent testing consistently ranks it among the most engaging sports cars money can buy, new or used. The conflict, though, isn't mechanical, it's financial. Insurance premiums on the 911 run noticeably higher than on comparable performance cars, partly because of repair costs, partly because of theft rates in certain markets. And routine maintenance, the kind most owners underestimate before buying, isn't cheap either. A basic service can cost what an entire year of Corolla ownership costs elsewhere on this list. So the real question with the 911 was never, is it a good car? It obviously is. The real question is whether the ongoing cost of keeping it feels worth it once the excitement of the first drive settles down. Jeep Wrangler. Last one on the list, and honestly, it might be the most polarizing of them all, because nothing else here splits opinion this hard. The Wrangler wasn't built to be comfortable. It was built to survive terrain that would leave most SUVs stranded, and on that specific promise, it delivers better than almost anything else sold today. Solid axles, genuine off-road capability, a body-on-frame design that's practically in homage to the original military Jeeps from the 1940s. For buyers who actually take it off pavement, that heritage isn't nostalgia, it's function. But here's the conflict that catches so many buyers by surprise. Most Wranglers never see real off-road use. They're bought in cities, driven on highways, used for daily commuting, and in that context, the very design that makes it capable off-road makes it noticeably worse on-road. Wind noise at highway speed is louder than in almost any competing SUV, tested and measured repeatedly by independent outlets. Fuel economy sits well below segment averages. And crash test data has historically shown the Wrangler performing behind more conventional crossover SUVs in certain rollover risk categories, largely a byproduct of its higher center of gravity. So is it worth buying? If you actually use it for what it was engineered to do, yes. Arguably nothing else on this list matches it. If you're buying it purely for the look and the image, you're accepting real daily trade-offs for an experience you'll rarely use. And that, really, is the pattern running underneath all 7 of these cars. None of them are simply good or simply bad. Each one was engineered around a specific promise: reliability, emotion, refinement, status, performance, capability, and each one collects on that promise beautifully when it's bought for the right reason. The Corolla rewards people who just want a car that starts. The Mustang rewards people who respect what they're driving. The 911 rewards people who've already accepted that passion has a price tag. The mistake almost every buyer makes isn't picking the wrong car. It's picking the right car for the wrong life. Match the car to how you actually live, not to how you want to be seen living, and every single name on this list becomes a genuinely smart purchase. If this kind of honest breakdown is useful to you, stick around. There's more of this coming, and it's exactly the kind of thing worth subscribing for.